live by two of the members of Dream Theater. We've got Jordan Rudess joining us, the band's phenomenal keyboard player. Jordan, how are you, man?
I'm doing very well. How you doing?
Very, very good. And we should have John Petrucci here as well if our phones are working properly. JP.
Yes, we do. Hey.
Look at that modern technology, huh?
Wow, did you say 5 hours you have to do? That's like a Dream Theater set.
It's like one Dream Theater song.
Yeah, really.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, Mondays I do an extra show on Mondays only. So yeah, I'm going to call it that from now on. I'm going to call it my Dream Theater shift. 5 hours.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Perfect.
How you guys doing? We'll start with you, Jordan. How's things been, man?
Everything's been very, very good. Yeah, just been enjoying this little break from our tour. Last stop was Asia, and now we're just kind of getting energized and excited about running around the States for a little while.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a second. Dream Sonic is coming up, and John, last we talked to you that you were on, you had your solo record, which had come out. You were just about to start your solo tour, and we also got into a little talk about your beard and your beard products. How's all that been going?
Great. The beard's looking good. You can't see me, but I'm outside in my my tropical backyard, and it's glistening very nicely. It smells really good. Yeah, so it's crazy that we talked so long ago. So I did the solo tour with Mean Streak opening. It was awesome. We had so much fun, and as Jordan said, we were just in Asia. We've been touring all over, but I'm looking forward to this summer. It's going to be something different and something really cool.
Well, we'll get into that in a second. But John, before we move to Dream Theater, as far as your solo record and your tour, yes, you did have your wife's band open it. Well, you had Mike Portnoy playing drums, and then Mike's wife and your wife were part of Mean Streak, who were the opening act. How did all that go?
It was really cool. First of all, it was great having Mike come out with me. You know, we talked about this. I hadn't played live with him, since he left the band. So that was like 12 years or so. This was the first time we did something live together. It was just a trio, which I love, that environment. No offense, Jordan. I love playing with you and the whole big Dream Theater thing, but the guitar, bass, and drums trio, it's just like a really I don't know. There's so much room to stretch. So Mike and I had a blast. We had Dave LaRue on bass. And, yeah, so the original Mean Streak got back together. Like you said, Mike's wife, Marlene, my wife, Raina, John Mayung's wife, Lisa, Yael, the drummer, Bettina, the singer, and it was great. It was an awesome tour. Actually, Jordan came to the New York show, and I think he enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it very much. So you guys rock.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, Mean Streak was more of a regional thing at the time. Like they never really broke out on a national level, right, John?
Right. In fact, this tour was really. I mean, they played a lot of shows back then, but this was like the first, cross country tour through the States and up in Canada, and it was great for them. It was great for me. You got to understand, like when I met Raina and she was playing in Mean Streak, Dream Theater opened for them a couple of times. Like this was like the beginning of our whole thing together. And I even played with them. I played bass with them on stage a couple of times, and those songs were like ingrained in my memory. So when they started rehearsals here in my house, and when they started playing, I was like, oh my God, this brings it all back. I mean, they were the first like all-female thrash metal band in that scene, back in the days of L'Amour's and all that stuff, So it was great having them get back together and play with me.
Now, what happens when the opening act gets out of line and the headliner has to put them in line, but then the person happens to be your wife? How'd you deal with that, John?
I'm not putting anybody in line, put it this way.
So the opening act, I'm assuming, got full PA and as much as they needed on the rider?
Hey, listen, you know what? This this is a very unique and rare opportunity to be able to tour with my wife. You know, you can have whatever you want. There's no all the other rules that might happen on a tour don't apply. It's family, and you know, it was actually cool. It was great because I brought out my crew, which is largely Dream Theater crew. I mean, we had our lighting guy, our sound guy, our monitor guy, and they enjoyed that as well. And you know, same thing, full treatment. You know, what are you gonna? You're not gonna tell your wife's band like, oh yeah, you guys not allowed to have any lights. Sorry. You know, it's like just come on, we're gonna have fun, and you guys are gonna enjoy it, and they did, and it was really, really cool.
Yeah, because of course it follows you home. Unlike another opening act, you don't have to go home with them. They don't have to cook you dinner.
I'll tell you, it's funny because Rain and I mean, we've played together before. She is a guest instructor at my camps. I have another camp coming up. We've jammed many times, but we've never toured together like that. And like, we had a blast. It was kind of like being on this cross-country trip, like vacation, going to all these different states and cities. But then, we have work to do at night, playing these shows. So it was actually cool to do that with my wife. We've never done anything like that before. So it was a great experience.
Jordan, I remember last time I spoke to you, well, maybe not the last time, but a little while ago. I don't remember if it was on a cruise or if it was on, maybe it was at NAMM. But I remember at that time you were promoting something new that you had developed in terms of gear or a plug-in or a keyboard or something. You had even demonstrated it. I know you're always big into that world. How's that been going for you, the gear end of things?
Yeah, it's always an interesting world. And, with technology, it just keeps on growing and just getting faster and faster. But yeah, the last time I saw you was on Cruise to the Edge. Right. Doing a solo concert, and we had spoken. But yeah, some very cool things going on in the gear world. My biggest application on iOS is called GeoShred, and it's I use it on stage actually with Dream Theater, and it's based on a technology called physical modeling, and it basically rocks and plays all these really cool orchestral instruments, very expressive. So that's going very well. I have a new kind of technology that's more like AI that I'm working on right now with an application called Riffler, like riff with an LER tagged onto it, that actually invents riffs in different styles just in a very, very amazing way. And actually, we just came up with a technology that actually scared me a little bit because it's kind of like playing a little bit of Jordan style, and offering that to the public, but I haven't put it out yet, and just got to think about how that gets released, or if that gets released.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because I wanted to ask each of you guys about this, being that you're in a band that's, such an established band and such an accomplished band. And I'll start with you on this, Jordan, being that you touched on it already. I mean, in the news a lot in the last couple months has been AI and the pros and cons of it and how it impacts music. What are you, I don't even understand and have a full understanding of it, but what are your thoughts on it as a musician, given what you just said?
Yeah, it's a very big topic, and I personally am very excited about it because, well, if people are being nice that know about AI, like artists, musicians, graphic artists, they'll usually say, oh, we can use it as a tool, and, we've had tools before, and that's kind of a cool thing. But the reality is that the technology, as it's really always done, but now maybe even more, opens up all these incredible possibilities for new levels of creativity that we haven't seen before. So it's a tool, but it's a complete door opener, kind of shatters what we know in a lot of ways. And it can be used in so many ways, so we can hear and we can see things that we've never really seen or heard before. So, I myself is somebody who works not only in the audio domain, but I'm also really involved in the visual domain. I'm what's called an ambassador for a company called Lightrix, which is out of Israel, and they do incredible things with AI and photo and video. And I've also been involved in the AI part of music as well. And I'm very excited about it. How much of it, will roll over kind of like into the Dream Theater world and even needs to, that's a whole nother question. I mean, we've actually been pretty open to the technologies that I bring in, although it doesn't completely take over, obviously, what we do, because we've been doing this for a long time. But in general, really, really excited about it. I think it's cool. People should pay attention to it. And as a creative person, I'm very involved in, let's say, the positive side of it.
John, where do you land on it all?
Well, Eddie, you might have to start calling me Nostradamus, because a few years ago I wrote a story called The Astonishing, and Jordan and I wrote the music to it, and it was Dream Theater's record about basically the end of the world due to the fact that AI takes over, and there's no need for humans to be creative anymore, and the Nomax or noise machines take over and create this horrible music that starts controlling people, and it takes a musical savior named Gabriel to kind of get us out of it. So I predicted it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's happening. That's my take. The Nomax are coming. Everybody,
are you going to be? But the question is, then, are you, John Petrucci, going to be Gabriel? Are you going to save us?
No, definitely not me. Definitely not me. It's gonna have to be somebody with a musical superpower like no other.
For those that
Eddie,
don't,
I'm telling you.
Well, you're right. I mean, I completely forgot about that for a second, but not only was it a book, but obviously it was an expansive concept record and a tour that you did in support of that. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe for its 10th, how long ago was that record? Because my timelines are always screwed up. Has it been, 5-6 years?
Too. Yeah, I think so. It definitely hasn't been 10 yet, but I'm so bad with that too when I try to think of when we release records. But yeah, there's
2016.
On the 10th anniversary, you won't be. When was it?
2016.
7 years.
16, so not that long ago. Wow. How is that 7 years ago already? That's crazy.
I know. That's crazy.
It's nuts. Well, but by the time.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Jordan.
People will, now that we've that John has pointed that out, people are going to have to go back and check it out again.
Yeah, well, that's it. Maybe with all this AI talk, it gives The Astonishing a whole new audience at some point.
Right.
Exactly. It's it speaks the truth.
We knew that album was ahead of its time.
That's right.
Clearly. All right, so let's talk about Dream Sonic. Dream Theater presents Dream Sonic 2023. It's you guys, of course, along with Devin Townsend and Animals as leaders. John, we'll start with you. How did this all come together?
So, Eddie, we've been doing an evening with shows for many years now. It's a lot of fun. We get all 3 hours, and we get to play so much music. The last few legs, we've had like one opening band here and there in certain parts of the world, but we decided to do something different and have a little fun with it, and kind of just bring more attention to the whole prog metal community and world, and do like our own traveling, festival, like much like a Family Values or Gigantor or something like that, city to city. And we teamed up with Animals and Devin, which are two great bands, great artists, amazing people in this whole prog rock metal genre, and it's going to be a show. It's going to be all about the music, all about the style and that whole world. And we're bringing it through the U.S. and Canada over the summer, which is always fun playing during the summer. So this is going to be a really something different, something cool, and something not to be missed, for sure.
The tour starts June 16th in Cedar Park, Texas. And you can go to the Dream Theater website or dreamsonic.com for more information. Jordan, John just said that you've done a lot of evening with, meaning no opening act. And I think for a lot of your fans, and of course we already half joked about how long some of your songs and performances can be. I think for Dream Theater fans in general, they love that aspect of what you do. They want that full 2-3 hour show, whatever it may be. Doing a tour like this with 2 support acts, will you be able to, you know, are you going to have to cut down your set? I mean, how is that going to be presented?
Well, yeah, I mean, we do have to cut it down a bit because we can't have people there all night long. So, although maybe the Dream Theater fans would stay if we just kept on playing. But yeah, we've cut it down a bit. We've tried to pick songs from different albums. I mean, the View from the Top of the World tour is kind of officially over as per our Asian shows, and now we're just going into the summer run. So we, you know, put together a set list that'll cover a lot of ground. I think we're playing for about an hour and a half, but it's going to be a great set list.
John, how did you guys arrive in doing Dream Sonic? How did you guys arrive at putting Animals as leaders and Devin Townsend on them? I mean, it's a pretty, I mean, I'm sure you had a lot of different options, but why land on those two artists to at least do this initial one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple of things. It's sort of serendipitous because those guys, you know, in speaking to our management and agent, we're planning on going out this summer as well. And we also have relationships with them. Devin opened for us recently throughout our run in Europe. And Animals has played with us a bunch of times. And Tosin has done my camp. So actually, Devin's done my camp as well. But so we have a relationship there. They were going out. Management and agents started talking. It's like, we wanted to do this Dream Sonic thing. Let's put it together. This sounds like really the perfect inaugural run. And, you know, the cool thing about this, too, for us is we could do this any time now, and we can have different lineups that kind of showcase bands in the prog metal genre. We could take this to different countries. We can do this at different times of the year. And, again, this is the inaugural – I can't say that word. The first run. And I'm so happy to have those two bands with us. It's just like a great collection of artists that do this type of thing so well. Yeah, so that's how that worked out.
For people who aren't now, I know who both Devin Townsend and Animals as leaders are. I know I've seen Tosin Abasi play, who's the guitar player in Animals. I've seen him play on Generation X, the tour that Steve Vai put together with Nuno and Zach and Yngwie and all those guys. But for the audience that doesn't know these two, and I know Devin Townsend in certain circles has a huge following for the different things he's done, but can you give a little overview, whoever wants to take it, John or Jordan, on both of those artists and what they're about?
Sure, I could do it. Well,
go ahead, Jordan.
All right. So, like, first of all, we're really excited about this lineup, as John said, and one of the reasons we're really excited about it is because they kind of fit in with us, but they're also very different. They each of, you know, those artists do different things than Dream Theater in interesting ways. I guess I can start with maybe Devin Townsend. Devin is a really exceptional artist. For those people out there who know his styles, you know that he is kind of like this type of artist that has a very broad reach. One second he can be doing a beautiful ballad. Next second he's doing the heaviest crazy metal you've ever heard. And then the second after that he's singing like some wild, crazy Broadway show. So I assume that he's going to tailor his set to something that he feels will fit into our, you know, into this particular groove. And it's, you know, that's guaranteed it's going to be really interesting because he's an exceptional musician. And, you know, we really love him and we enjoyed hanging out with him. So Animals as Leaders is very different still. And Animals as Leaders, in my opinion, is probably like the leading instrumental kind of prog rock jazz fusion group. Of course, Tosin is, you know, an out-of-this-world guitar player, and Javier is also exceptional. The whole group is great. But they kind of blend, from my viewpoint, they blend progressive rock, and they have a little bit of, like, funk, and occasionally even a little electronic and fusion, and it's really their own blend. So it's going to be really an interesting night of music with all three groups.
Yeah, I've heard, like, it's funny because because Devin Townsend was the band Strapping Young Lad, right? He had that band prior, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I had people like over the years call that out to me or mention it to me. And it's funny because every time I've tried to dive in to learn what he's about and what that music is about, everything that people have sent me has been radically different. Like, I'm like,
totally.
Wait a minute. wait a minute, this sounds like some sort of death metal thing, and the next thing it's like this whole other thing, and I'm like, that guy may be one of the most eclectic artists out there, John.
100%. You never know what he's going to dream up, and come out with next. I remember, you mentioned Vi before. The first time I saw Devin was he was playing in Vi's band. He was singing and playing guitar, and he was like, matching solos with Vi, and I was like, who is this crazy guy? I could be mistaken, but I wonder if Mangini might have been on drums on that tour. I'd have to ask Mike of the timeline.
And I saw him at the Beacon Theater. I think I was there. I know I was there as well.
Yeah, that's when I first saw him. But and he's such an interesting guy. Like, we've toured with him. You have these conversations that are just like as interesting as he is. And not only is he a great guitar player, but he's an awesome singer. And he's kind of like scares me sometimes. Like, if you watch him sing and play, it's like the guy he's just like so unique and puts it all out there. I know he's on the same label as us on Inside Out Sony, and I've seen some of the live things that he's done, like at Royal Albert with his concept records, with all these crazy like props and creatures and things. And like Jordan said, then he'll do some atmospheric stuff that's totally different. So I'm not sure what to expect. I know also Mike Keneally, who is a tremendous musician, guitar player, keyboard player, is in his band. So I wonder if he'll lean more towards like the prog side to kind of go.
We're all very curious.
Yeah, we don't know what he's going to do on your own tour.
We have no idea.
We don't.
I wanted to say that when we were out with him the last time, there were a couple times where I had the dressing room right next to his room, and you have never heard anything like the Devin Townsend vocal warm-up. It is so trippy and crazy. He's singing in like a 5-octave range, and he's going through the wildest styles. It's really, really unique. It's either like you think you're next to like a loony bin or like some kind of. It's really, really crazy and fun.
Do you guys, it sounds like you do, but do you see Dream Sonic being a recurring thing? I mean, this is and I'm going to go for the word, John, the inaugural run. Look,
wow.
I pulled it up.
Much better than me. Wow.
See, John, you're a master at guitar, but I just got that broadcasting thing, You
do. I would expect that from you. Yes.
I'll take your talent any day over being able to say inaugural. But anyway, do you want to do this as a recurring thing? Is this something you envision, John, doing every year, or every other year, or how do you see it?
I definitely see it as a recurring theme, for sure. In fact, we have everything in place to make sure that that's possible to do. It's just a matter of how often we do it. I don't know if it's something that is recurring every year or every 2 years. I see it more as kind of like when it makes sense to do, then we can do it. And if it grows into something more than that and it becomes more steady as far as being annual, that's cool too. I just know our style. I know we're going to come out with a new record. We're going to want to go evening with for a while. And, maybe when the opportunity arises and we get sick of that, let's do a Dream Sonic run. Now that we have it established and it's its own brand and its own thing, let's take out 2, 3 different, prog metal bands and let's do this somewhere in the world. So, yeah, it has the potential of really growing and being reoccurring. To what frequency, I couldn't answer that yet, but it's definitely something that we're going to do.
And Jordan, there's enough depth there when you look at bands you could potentially team up with, because even though this initial run is Animals as Leaders and Devin Townsend with you guys being such a global band and being out there so much on the road and just being in touch with what's going on, I'm sure there are a ton of bands you could see also kind of being dropped in here down the line, right?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, there's so many great players out there, and there's so many bands that, have not had the opportunity even to get out there and play, that it would just be fun to, kind of look into it and pick the bands.
And John, you mentioned a couple minutes ago you dropped Gigantor, and I remember that because that was Dave Mustaine's festival that he made a run with. I think he only did it for 1 or 2 tours, but I forgot
Yeah.
that you guys were on that. So were there any festivals or traveling packages like this that you were a part of that kind of inspired you to do this?
I mean, that was that comes to mind that I remember doing. I mean, there are obviously the festivals that kind of exist on the weekend, and there's all different bands playing them, whether it's the ones in Europe or here in the U.S. The traveling kind, as far as I can recall, that's the type of thing that we experienced that made that something that seemed interesting. And of course, back in the day, we also did Progressive Nation, which is something Mike came up with that was kind of along those lines of a traveling, sort of reoccurring themed tour. So, those experiences and just knowing all these incredible bands that are out there and wanting to do something different than an evening with, it has inspired this for sure. Because like Jordan said, there's so many to choose from. And, what a great thing to bring attention to this kind of music and just get it out there, tour during the summer in this case. You don't get that often. So if we could be sort of at the forefront of presenting that to the world and introducing some of these bands that, are successful in their own rights, but maybe a lot of people out there might not be aware of, then we're happy to do that.
The dates start again, June 16th, Cedar Park, Texas. And right now, according to the website, wrapping up July 26th in Phoenix. Do you envision adding more, or is this it for now?
Well, we can't add more because my camp starts just after that. So
okay,
yeah, just after. Actually, yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about the camp, John.
Yeah, sure. It's called John Petrucci's Guitar Universe. This is the 4th incarnation of it. It's going to happen from August 3rd to 6th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it's just 4 days of jamming, lessons, master classes, concerts, barbecues, chilling. We have an amazing collection of guest artists. It's insane. You mentioned Zach. He'll be there. We talked about my wife Raina and Mean Streak. Raina will be there. We got the guys from Polyphia. We got Guthrie Govan. We got Tosin, like I mentioned. There's 11 or 12 guest instructors. It's an insane collection of talent, and I'm looking forward to it. So that'll be right after the end of the tour, starting August 3rd. It's a great event if you play guitar. Even if you don't play guitar, it's fun to attend. But any level, you don't have to be a master player. You could be a beginner. Boy, girl, doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter. It's fun. It's more like a guitar camaraderie week, and it's like a real camp. People make great relationships for life, and it's so much fun.
Jordan, have you done similar stuff to this? If I recall, or were you part of similar things like this at some point in the past?
Well, let's see. So I have done some keyboard things. The last one I did was in collaboration with Sweetwater Sound, KeyFest, a few years ago. Really fun. One of the interesting things about the music world is there are definitely more guitarists and drummers who like to hang out than there are keyboard players. It's like a thing. Keyboard players, they like technology. They like, magazines that have pictures of knobs and sliders and things like that. So it's a little bit of a battle to get them to be social. So actually, the last camp that I experienced is I went to Joe Satriani's camp, and I helped out a little bit, leading some jams and learning some guitar riffs, and that was really fun. So, and John's camp is obviously going to be incredible because it's got some of the greatest guitar players I've ever heard of that are going to be hanging out.
Yeah, it's kind of a trip, and we do some fun things. I always like to put on a barbecue, flip burgers, and, we'll do a bourbon tasting for the campers of age, and, it's just fun. And people can go to johnpetrucci'sguitaruniverse.com to learn about it. and there's probably a few signups left, but it is really cool. A couple months away.
The last Dream Theater album will be 2 years old in October. Speaking of time flying by, A View from the Top of the World. And congrats. I don't think I've talked to you guys about it since the Grammy win took place. How was that? First of all, who physically attended, and where is the Grammy?
Well, thank you. That was a very surreal moment. You know, we had, that was our third nomination. The Grammys that year were moved from LA to Vegas. It was happening in between tour legs. So I think a bunch of the guys were kind of like, we're not going to go. Maybe some guys had plans. I'm not sure what you were doing, Jordan, but I was like, I talked to Rain. I'm like, you want to go to Vegas for a few days and go to the Grammys? You know, we win. That's phenomenal. If we don't, we hung out in Vegas for a while. So she was there with me, and it was just surreal, Eddie. It's like there was Jimmy Jam announcing the category Best Metal Performance, and he said Dream Theater the Alien, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like running up to the stage. I had to give this speech, and they were like, oh, you only have 45 seconds. And I felt very proud, because I felt like, man, no like prog metal bands ever get this. This is like, we're represented over here. And then they give it to you, and you walk up stage, and they're like, okay, we'll take that. And then, you know, they mail them to you. So we each got a Grammy Award, and they're all at our houses, and we're so very proud. And I'm sure Jordan had the same experience, where kids and family members and community were elated, and I got to, you know, my kids were freaking out. I got to call my mom and say, hey, Mom, I won a Grammy. You know, it's something that, especially choosing the style of music that we have chosen to play, to get that kind of commercial recognition, it's not something you expect. And when you start to talk to people, you know, engineers, other musicians, even at the Grammys and stuff, you say, you know, people are into this stuff. You know, they're fans, or they're just like what you're doing, or they like the style. There's tons of guitar players and keyboards and players and drummers and musicians that are into this more than you would think. And I think that community stepped up and said, hey, you know, this song deserves it. And what was cool about it, I don't know if you know this story, but the song that won was the first song that we wrote when we got together during the pandemic, just because nothing else was going on. And it was like, well, what do you guys want to do? And we're like, let's just see what happens. And we wrote that song. That was the Alien. That's one. It was a crazy song in 17/8 that's like 9 minutes long. It has all these solos, and it's about terraforming planet. It's totally, you know, the nerdiest like prog metal song you could think of. And so it was great to win on our own merits, and that felt really great too. And I tried to express that in my little 45-second speech, but anyway, it was such a moment for all of us. And of course, yeah,
John, I got to ask you this real quick, because you talked about your mom's reaction, and you know, here you are, you have had this very, very, very successful international rock band now for whatever it is, 35 years and counting, and tour the world and play to thousands of people. But something tells me that for Mom, saying you got a Grammy probably was a whole different level of acknowledgement, right? Because it's something she could really relate to.
Totally, Eddie. It's exact. You know, there's you know this in your industry. There's recognition you get in the community that really mean so much, you know, but it's very like limited to our bubble, you know, whether it be just guitar things or broadcasting things or whatever. But something like a Grammy, I mean, that's like the Oscars of music. Like, everybody knows what that is. You know, for your mom to say, my son won a Grammy, it's just like, that doesn't, you know, that's a different level. And
see, the reason why I bring that up is because I had a taste of that myself, because this is my 40th year in radio and TV, and whatever I've done, hosting countless radio shows, TV shows, whatever, when I wrote my first book, I don't know, it was like 12 years ago. When I put out a book, there was finally acknowledgement from my mom that I did something.
Oh, wow.
Like didn't matter. Like all this rock stuff that I did. Hey Ma, I just talked to whoever. Did this show today. Well, no, to go into a Barnes and Noble and see a book with my name on it, that's when her boy arrived. So I felt like there was probably a similar thing for you guys.
Oh, totally. It's, you know, it's also because like we're not in that world. Like we're not a pop band, you know, we're not even like in the world of metal. We're still niche. Like we're still like kind of in our own weird lane. So it was not only for people that are close to us, like our kids, our wives, our moms and everything like that, but it was like our fans were like, oh my God, like this doesn't happen. You know, they were so proud. So it was such a moment, you know.
It's really funny because everybody knows what a Grammy is. I mean, you know, back in the old days, we were like, that stuff doesn't matter. You know, we're not really in that world. And we just kind of, you know, felt that way and let that be. But the reality is the Grammy thing, like wherever we go, if we're like introduced by somebody, they always say Grammy Award winners. I mean, and that means something to people that have this really strong awareness of that. And so I guess it's an acknowledgement and it's a door opener, and it just has that meaning because of what it is and the fact that everybody's so aware of that particular award. And also I should say again that, you know, we were especially honored because it's not just the general public that's voting, you know, in the Grammys that gave us this Grammy. It's our peers. It's the other musicians, the people that have been, you know, listening to, it's like, you know, mostly like younger bands and musicians and producers that said, okay, we want to give this to Dream Theater. And that's a big honor, you know, to know that we've inspired, you know, so many musicians, and that really means something to us.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, I have very, 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 very strong feelings about the Grammys and how they treat rock and metal music. But that being said, when, you know, people win them, I'm happy for them because it's exactly what we just talked about. There's an acknowledgement there, and it transcends your natural fan base or your natural interest from, in this case, family members, which I completely could understand how that flew and went over. Last thing, have you thought about, and has there been talk about a follow-up, another record?
Yeah, you know, we have talked about it a little bit. Obviously we're going to finish out this Dream Sonic leg. We've been touring for pretty nonstop, so we'll take a little bit of time and get started on a new record. We've talked about some ideas on direction. We talked about a title, a possible concept, not a concept record, but a direction. So so it's starting, it's bubbling. But no concrete musical ideas yet. We'll most likely get together towards the end of the year, beginning of the next, and do this all again, which it's like my favorite thing about all this. And it's kind of like the same with touring and getting to play live. Every day, every night you walk on stage, it's like a new opportunity to do it again, to play it again, to play better, to try better, fix something you messed up. Every record you go into is just, as a creative person, just such a great moment. You roll up your sleeves, like, man, let's do this, and I love that. So we will get into that for album number 16 towards the end of this year, beginning of next.
And Jordan, are you just going to program? Is AI just going to take over your spot? You're just going to turn everything?
Yeah, I'm going to send in an AI robot in my honor to do all the parts.
Lastly, before you guys came on the air with me, I had a caller. We were talking about band names, and they were saying, like, do you think band names play into a band having success or not? And I was saying, no, I don't really think they do, because there's cool band names, and then there's band names you're like, well, if you didn't know that was a band name, like, what the hell is an Aerosmith? Like, it wouldn't mean anything. So we were talking about, cool names, not cool names, whether it had an impact on the band's success or lack thereof. And John, as a co-founding member of Dream Theater, I mean, I'm sure the story's probably been told and been out there, But where did Dream Theater come? I think Dream Theater is a cool name, but where did it come from? What were the origins?
Sure, I'll tell that story. First of all, we used to be called MaSSa, and that's
Right.
why whenever you see Dream Theater, there's a symbol that looks like an M, and that was our leftover M in honor of our previous name, MaSSa. But when we went to do our first record, we couldn't use it because another MaSSa existed, and they had the trademark, and they wouldn't sell it to us. So we had to come up with a new name, and we came up with the most horrible, ridiculous names that I don't know what we were thinking. We were young, and we were struggling, actually. At one point, we considered naming our band after the last name of our attorney, and it was
Which was what?
Glasser. We almost named our band Glasser, and I think your theory, to speak to your theory, we would not be successful. We would not be sitting here talking to you today if our name was Glasser. Nothing against our attorney. But the story was we're really, really struggling, and Mike Portnoy's father at the time lived up in Northern California, Monterey or Carmel. I think he maybe lived in Carmel. But there was a movie theater there called the Dream Theater. And you can actually go, Google this and look up the Dream Theater movie theater. And one day, I guess Mike was talking to his dad, Howie. He's unfortunately no longer with us. And Howie was like, I think Dream Theater would be a good name. And I'll never forget, we used to rehearse in the basement of a haircutting salon in Huntington on Long Island. And we were having a meeting. And Mike's like, yeah, my dad mentioned Dream Theater. We were like, that's awesome. And that was it. It's just like way, way better than any name that we could ever think of. And that we thought it was just like the perfect name, and it stuck. And
does the Dream Theater still exist in Northern California?
It does not. No, it doesn't. Yes, no longer.
It'd be great if you guys went back there and played it. If it was like a lot of old movie theaters or venues now, you could go back there, and would have been a cool thing to do.
Oh, it would have been amazing. Yeah, I remember seeing something online where I guess it had a pretty interesting marquee or sign, and I remember Googling it and seeing like the sign was like really kind of trippy and cool. But we loved that name. As soon as we heard it, we were like, that's it. And the cool thing about it is it does lend itself to like all the imagery and stuff that we kind of become known for in our genre. This whole prog thing, storytelling, and like surreal, kind of cool, dreamlike imagery. It's kind of perfect,
I don't know. I think if you would have done Glasser and made the two S's like Kiss S's and lightning bolts, it could have been pretty badass, dude.
Oh my God,
that sounds awesome.
Looks great on it. I could see it on a T-shirt. I'm not even joking. Like, what's in a name anymore? Like, again,
right.
A Dream Theater is like is a very cool name. I'm not denying that, but I mean, whether it was MaSSa or Glasser looked like really like a tough, cool name. Who knows? I mean, that's the stuff you just ponder and you wonder.
Maybe we'd be more successful if our name was Glasser. Maybe we would have like really, really made it.
Or you might have gotten a better deal on legal services.
Right, that's true. That's true.
Maybe
at the very least.
Maybe it's a font.
Or maybe he would have charged you more because you're using his name. Who knows? I don't know.
It was a woman,
guys,
actually. She would have.
Oh, woman. I'm sorry. Well,
more, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Guys, I got to run. It's great talking to both of you. And again, we remind everybody to check out the tour Dream Sonic 2023 with special guest Devin Townsend and Animals as leaders, headlined by Dream Theater. And again, the tour starts in Texas, and you can go to the Dream Theater website or dreamsonic.com to learn more and get your tickets and all the various information going on out there. So, guys, good luck. Be safe out there, and hope to catch a show somewhere down the line.
Awesome, Eddie.
Thanks
Great
so much,
talking
Eddie.
to you, man.
Great to talk.
Jordan, John, thank you, man. Take care. Enjoy the summer.
Right, thank you. You too.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. There they go. Some good time there with Jordan and John from Dream Theater joining us and getting into some great conversation about a bunch of different stuff. And there's your answer on band names. I had heard something about that's kind of like where they got their name, but I wasn't I knew that it was something to do with Portnoy and early on, and I didn't realize it was his dad, and it was actually the name of a movie theater. That's interesting. Great stuff there from those guys, and appreciate all the time with them. We just pretty much took up just about the entire balance of the show there, talking with Jordan and John from Dream Theater, whose career has just been remarkable. I mean, to make music on their terms, as uncompromising as it's been, and as they even joked about themselves, sometimes some extraordinarily long songs, and to build a fan base like that, just absolutely awesome. So if you're into the more progressive side of heavy music, few do it as well as those guys, so be sure to check it out. And I'm not entirely hip to what Animals as Leaders or Devin Townsend does. I know, I've seen Tosin Abasi play, and I know what he's about. And Devin Townsend, like I said in the interview, I was hit up with a few times about having on or just talking about or listening to, and I did. And it was weird because the stuff I heard that I was sent was almost like a death metal thing, like that real extreme vocal style, which I'm personally not a fan of. And it just, but as you heard John say, that guy goes in a lot of different directions, and everyone universally says he's an extraordinary musician. So if I get a chance to see that tour, I'm actually real curious to see I've seen Dream Theater a million times, but to see the opening acts and to see what they do in a live setting. So again, that tour starting in a couple weeks, Dream Sonic. Great conversation with those guys. All right.